We've all heard the riddle, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Most of us brush it off as a simple thought experiment. But imagine for a moment that your entire existence was built on this exact paradox. Imagine being the chicken, the egg, the farmer, and the person eating the meal, all at the very same time. This impossible biological loop defines Predestination, a film that deliberately buries its truths beneath a mountain of fragmented, non-linear time jumps. It is a puzzle designed to leave the audience as disoriented as the characters themselves. To understand the mechanics of this paradox, we have to ignore the way the film jumps across the decades. We need to untangle the knot and trace the protagonist's life in a single, unbroken biological sequence from birth to death. By laying the events out flat, the mechanical puzzle fades away. What remains is a story of trauma, extreme isolation, and the inescapable nature of human destiny. Our linear biological story begins in 1945 with a newborn baby named Jane, abandoned at an orphanage with nothing but a strange blanket. Growing up in the institution, Jane is a complete outcast. She is highly intelligent and physically stronger than the boys, yet she feels like a stranger in her own skin, desperate to find a place where she belongs. That desperation leads her to Space Corp, a government program in the 1960s. Jane excels in every physical and intellectual test, easily beating out all the other recruits. But during routine medical examinations, doctors discover a highly unusual anomaly in her biology. They use a minor physical altercation as a pretext to expel her, once again rejecting her from the only world she tried to serve. Lost and alone, Jane eventually meets a mysterious stranger on a rainy night in 1963. For the first time in her life, she feels a connection. They fall passionately in love, but the happiness is short-lived. The stranger vanishes without a word, leaving Jane abandoned and pregnant. During a difficult delivery, doctors perform emergency surgery and uncover the truth. Jane was born intersex, possessing both male and female internal organs. To save her life, they remove her female reproductive system and reconstruct her as male. Days later, a shadowy figure breaks into the nursery and steals her newborn baby. Stripped of her lover, her child, and her identity, Jane transitions into a bitter, cynical man named John. Years later, in a quiet 1970s bar, John recounts this tragedy to the man working behind the counter. The barkeep offers John a chance to confront the man who ruined his life using a time travel device. John agrees and jumps back to April 1963. He waits in the pouring rain for the man who abandoned Jane, but instead, he sees his younger self. He realizes in that moment that he is the mysterious stranger. Because John lived through Jane's trauma, he knows exactly what she needs to hear and how to make her feel loved. A person utterly starved for human connection finally secures it, but only by providing that love to their own past self. While John is falling in love with Jane, the barkeep is executing a separate mission. He travels to the hospital on the night of the birth and kidnaps the newborn baby. Leaving the infant in 1945 completes the loop. This diagram maps the paradox. Jane goes back as John to impregnate herself, birthing a baby that becomes Jane. Mother, father, and child are the exact same biological entity. To maintain the cycle, the barkeep pulls John away from Jane and recruits him into the temporal bureau. John finds a sense of purpose as an agent, setting off the chain of events that ensures he will eventually age into the barkeep himself. The barkeep retires in 1975, but his time machine remains active. Haunted by the past, he begins taking unauthorized jumps to stop minor disasters. These prolonged trips cause temporal dementia, a condition that slowly unravels his sanity and detaches him from reality. This decay leads to a final confrontation. The barkeep tracks the Fizzle Bomber, a terrorist he has hunted for years, to a 1975 laundromat. When the bomber turns around, the barkeep is staring at an older, demented version of himself who claims the bombings prevent even greater catastrophes. The older man warns that killing him will only ensure the cycle continues. Refusing to accept this horrifying version of himself, the barkeep violently raises his gun and shoots his older self dead. The execution seals his fate. The trauma of the killing, combined with the isolation of retirement and the advancing dementia, ensures he adopts the bomber's logic. He will become the monster he just destroyed, waiting in that laundromat to be killed by his younger self. Robertson and the Temporal Bureau deliberately engineered this entire paradox as a cold, calculated operation. Robertson targeted this specific person because an individual with no ancestors to erase and no family tree to disrupt is the ultimate weapon. They are an agent entirely untethered from human history. John wears a ring bearing the Ouroboros, an ancient symbol of a serpent devouring itself. It represents an infinite cycle of birth and death, which is the literal reality of the protagonist's life. Jane's journey is defined by a singular isolation. All she ever wanted was a family, and the universe forced her to find it by becoming her own mother, her own father and child, and her own lover. Predestination suggests that no matter how far you travel through time, you can never escape yourself. The ghosts of your past and the shadows of your future are identical, and unresolved trauma is destined to repeat itself forever.